Hello, groovers and shakers. Oldies, fellow oldies such as myself. I am watching another fellow oldie, Donald Trump. Everyone on Twitter is saying that this shooting was a stitch-up, like how would you call it? The conspiracy theorists are all saying that they arranged it all just because the midterms are coming up. And I was looking at the footage there of the gunman running through the sort of barriers, they're kind of barriers. This is outside the room. So the guy didn't even get in the room. So nobody really knows who he was trying to shoot. And he could have been trying to shoot at anyone. The press were all there, etc. And Donald Trump's called him a hone wolf whack job. Just think it's hilarious. He has such a wonderful turn of phrase. Anyway, when you look at that, the guards, the security at the barrier type area, they're just sort of lounging around. I mean, I suspect they'll all get fired. They may as well have gone off on a fag break. Do you know what I mean? And so this guy just runs through. Then I started thinking, well, what if it's an insider job? So they knew that, these guards, so they made space for this guy to run through. Then I started thinking, maybe Melania organised a hit on him, because if you had to sleep with him, I don't think they share the bed. Apparently, according to my mum, I don't know how she knows this, because she's not even on Twitter. She must have read something. Mum reads a lot of fake news. It comes up on her feed. She's always telling me stuff, and I go, Mum, that's rubbish. That's total rubbish. Anyway, I was sort of going down this rabbit hole thinking, what if Melania and the Russians because she's Russian, want him dead, and she'd arranged this hit? I thought, wouldn't that be really exciting? And then I started thinking, maybe I should write that book. I could change the names, but it would be a great book, wouldn't it? Now, I've just finished watching The Boys, which is absolutely raucous, disgusting, but highly watchable program. It's on a series on Prime. I've been watching it on Prime, and it's so degenerate. It really is. But I've realised as I've been watching it that it's totally and utterly based on Trump. I feel sure that Homelander is Trump, and I'm sorry to go on about it if you're not watching it, but go and have a look, because it's all about the sort of American government and these sort of big consortiums and how they control the masses, and some of it is straight out of the news headlines for the last year although as the series developed, there seemed to be more governmental references, and I'm guessing it's an old series, but they could have been made in Trump's last sitting as president. Oh, I forgot what he's called then. He's a president, not a prime minister. He's the leader of the free world. Of course he is. Anyway, what a twat to be leader of the free world. If you wear that, that headline, if you wear that title, you really need to be a decent person, don't you? So I've likened him completely to Homelander, who's this guy, right? And he, cat jumped over the mic. And it's so disgusting. He finds love and erotic experiences in breast milk. It's just so raucous. You have to watch it. It's just, it's compulsive viewing, because you just think, surely they can't make anything even more revolting than the thing that I saw yesterday. And yes, they do. They do. Anyway, every sexual preference, every fetish, every weird thing that you've ever thought of or not thought of is in this series, right? And they're all free on Prime. So, I recommend a watch. Now, because I've just started my Mills and Swoon Erotica series of books, and I also, some time ago, I was doing these stories called Tonya and the Alien, and it was sort of alien you can't call literature pornographic, can you? Because, it can't really be without the visuals. I mean, the idea of that word is that it's really over the top. And I'm not sure you can be over the top in a sentence. I don't know. I mean, you can be salacious, obviously. But yeah, and I don't like that. I have terrible connotations with that word because of boyfriends that I've had who've really let the feminist side down when it comes to their magazines of choice. God almighty. I mean, in the olden days, I moved into this house once, right, in London, and behind the bath panel, there were 3 magazines, porn magazines, behind the bath panel. I mean, that husband was obviously petrified of his wife finding them, and you knew that she would never look there. I mean, you have to screw the bloody panel in every time. I mean, just bizarre. I think it was like hardboard. He could probably squidge his hand in opening one corner of it. But in those days, you knew what your men were using for their, their carnal enjoyment while you were busy having a headache. So, nowadays you don't, because they've all got phones, and I mean, you can go to the loo and do it, I suppose. And I've always had this sort of really weird relationship with it, that it's kind of, I don't know, it's just distasteful for some reason. And I've always had that. And it's been a real bone of contention with various partners that I've had. But I always see, at least 2 of my partners were sex addicts, at least 2 of them. And, you after the sort of 3rd time in a day, I don't know about you guys, but I just think, and I had 4 bloody kids, you just think, Jesus Christ, leave me alone for 2 years. And hence we always split up because I couldn't stand the pawing and the nagging. I don't profess to be a particularly sexual person, despite some of the feminist pornographic work that I've explored. I think as an autistic individual, you really, really don't want touching of any, you don't want any longer than necessary to make a child. That just seemed enough for me. God. So, I can't blame others at all, because even now, I've been celibate for many, many years, but even now I struggle with, just kissing my mum on the cheek or giving my kids a hug. I just find all of this stuff really, really complicated and almost triggering, really. It's weird, isn't it? It's very, very odd. But, as a postmenopausal woman, I really don't feel it's necessary for me to even bother with that anymore, and I'm glad it's over. I'm so glad it's over. That's not to say, guys, that there were times in my life where I couldn't wait to rip somebody's clothes off, because indeed there were. The limerence phase. I'm a qualified sex therapist, and the limerence phase I was very curious about and studied in great detail. And this is where the first sort of 18 months of a relationship are highly sexually charged and dominate everything, and they're wonderful, and you're quite happy to over and over again, and it's wonderful. But after 18 months, really, I think for me it was certainly the unofficial end of every relationship, not the official end. Some of them dragged on for years, some of them only a few months after that. And we get to know ourselves, don't we, after 60. We can think, oh yeah, I do have this pattern actually, and that this is part of the reason why everything went wrong. Not the whole reason, because sex should only take up 20% of your life maximum. It should only take up 20% of your brain capacity, and that's a fifth. So it's not very much, is it? And that's really for you know, healthy, emotionally, physically healthy, inverted commas, adult, younger adult, you know, because I definitely can see that when people get older, they're just not bloody interested anymore. And I'm not bloody interested. However, I am doing this series of alien erotica for Mills and Swoon. And the reason I think I can deal with it is because there is absolutely no chance it's going to happen, because there is no such thing as aliens. I don't actually believe in aliens, right? So I can sort of explore these ideas without feeling ick. Do you see what I mean? And I think normal sex does make me feel a bit ick. So clearly I am a mad woman. Anyway, I was watching this Homelanders, and there's a guy it's all about these guys, fallen superheroes, and he's like a fish guy. I'm not even sure what his hero things are, because I always have what his superhero strength is. I always have, you know, I'm always doing something else when I see these. Always. I'm always at work, and I don't sit and just watch any programs at all. So I just get the bits, you know, this sort of, when I'm interested in a bit, I'll glance up and I'll say to myself, oh my God, that's really gory, or that's really interesting. Because I'm quite fascinated by horror, and horror is a massive genre. It's like a rising genre. But I think comedy horror, which I would say this is, and I'm not sure it should be a 16. It's only a 16. I think perhaps it should be 18. Call me old-fashioned. Oh, yes, I am old-fashioned after all. But you know, some of the things that happen in that are really quite horrific. So exploding heads, exploding bodies. Then there's a lot of reference to practices which are, you know, human practices, which are rather, I'm not sure what word I can use appropriately, but, you know, they're previously illegal, more recently made legal, if you know what I mean. And it's sort of the whole concept of the series, I think, and rising up to the last, is still on, I believe. You can, because I'm on the last series, but suddenly stopped. So I think there's every week there's a new episode. And you can watch over the sort of series how pornography itself has influenced the directing, because you know how you can get anything you want on the internet, absolutely anything, and that's the one criticism of pornography. In this series, you know, anything that you could probably get on the dark web which was real is reenacted in this as cinema, TV. And I thought that was really interesting. But the thing with watching stuff like that, when you know it's a horror movie, or you know it's not real, and this is where pornography really lets the side down, because for some reason so many men think it's real, and they think the woman loves it, and they think women are disposable, and this. And what cinema does, what erotic cinema or horror eroticism does, is it makes sure before you sit down that you're actually aware that it's not real. You know that it's actors, it's special effects, it's prosthetics, it's humour, it's, you know, there are these nuances in it which you can get on board with, and therefore I don't find that offensive. And yet I always found a magazine an offence to women, always. And it's just so interesting, isn't it? The psychology of that, and how feminism actually impacts, you know, if you are a feminist, how that impacts what you see and what you watch. And of course, you know, the other great thing about contemporary cinema is there is, you know, female figures are appearing that are much stronger. And I dig that. I really like that. I think, you know, the balance is becoming more of a reality now. So yeah, if you fancy watching this sort of erotic horror that is Homeland, not Homelander. Homelander's the main character. Pop along to Prime and give it a watch.